invented memes?
Dude, I'm quite depressed about it.
You know who the inventor of the meme was? It was a guy named...
He was a doctor. Oh, I know.
Hang on, what was his name?
John Cripper invented the toilet too, dude.
I know. Hey, what did your Uncle Johnny say that he was a something and you were a hedge?
Rodner?
A Vodner. Yeah, it was actually a guy named Johnny Vodner that invented the meme.
Rodner?
Johnny Vodner, yeah.
Yeah, it's John Rodner, dude.
He invented the meme.
He also made me Lucky Tom with a turkey in the front yard.
Yeah, but he was the first person to ever make a meme, Thomas. You better put some respect on him now.
Yeah, dude,
He invented memes.
He invented memes.
He was, in fact, the first meme lord in the history of the world.
It was Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins.
I knew it was some sciencey ass shit name.
Richard Dawkins invented memes.
Yeah. Who's Richard Dawkins? Wasn't he the space guy?
He's a genealogist or some shit. Booked the selfish gene where it functioned with the meaning other than the current most common one. In Dawkins' conception of the term, it is a unit of cultural transmission, the cultural equivalent of a gene.
Alright, so I feel like this is super fucking important. Like, we need to get on podcast mode now.
It's on.
We're on podcast already?
Yeah, I turned it on.
Ah, fuck.
No,
So...
fine. No viewers yet.
Yeah, so,
We'll be right here.
what's that, multi-stream?
Yeah. It's also Saturday, so I have an opportunity to edit this actually, so I can unlist it after we're done. And
Okay.
just edit this motherfucker.
So, boomers invented memes.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucked up. Richard Dawkins,
1976.
1976, bicentennial. And that's the smallest cultural unit. It's like a fucking cultural equivalent of a gene.
Basically. No, but
Culture genes.
really it's just used to spread information, but it just doesn't matter what kind of information it is. It's just
They were Mimones when they were first invented.
no idea.
And that was shortened to Mimi, which became meme.
Oh yeah.
Language etymology or whatever.
Memes.
Memes.
Oh shit. Someone's sick. I don't know how I slapped that button, to be honest. Move that.
So okay, boomer is a meme, but boomers actually invented memes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, memes became satire. Like,
I mean, like everything becomes satire eventually. Like when you look at like the origin of language, it was like, you know, whatever cave wall writings that was like we have.
Nihilistic memes. Like, you have memes for everything. Dark memes, light memes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Break the fucking fourth
What
wall
is this
dimensional type meme.
My generation. So yeah, so I mean, like memes are pretty cool because like I got banned from Facebook last year, so I haven't been on Facebook in a year now, like exactly a year. But you know, I remember memes being like really big on Facebook, and I mean, you know, the social medias that I do still see, I see a lot of memes. I mean, it seems like they're actually like overtaking most other things. Like most knowledge is actually spread
Memes.
by memes. Yeah, like, I feel like
MySpace is memes.
did MySpace have memes?
Yes.
basically, Richard Dawkins said that memes are just because of the way it's presented,
Yeah.
right? Because of this little clickbait.
Well, it's like a cartoon. Like
because of this clickbait looking shit, people are gonna look at it. But see, people have this misconception where they think everything that they see has this little like dab of truth in it for some fucking dumb reason. Like not, 7 billion people on the planet and fucking like 80% of them just lie through their fucking teeth every day.
Right, and I mean that also takes into consideration that you believe that like knowledge even exists. I mean when you look at like science, I mean like what was the settled science in like 1800? What was the settled science in 1850? What was the settled science in 1900?
Well, I think science has always been like the explanation of like phenomenon, right? That are observable.
Right, so observable phenomenon. So you're getting into like objective
Basically.
science. So that's sense experience through what you can put a control so that you have a variable. So you can say that this one stayed this way and this one changed. So I can rule out or eliminate variables, but that's assuming that we can determine all of the variables in which we're trying to rule out. So as you go to rule out variables, you have to always consider that you may have false perceptions, like your premises may
That's
be
exactly
off.
why they repeat experiments, though.
Right. Oh, absolutely, and that's why like the science is settled is such a asinine statement.
Yeah, I like when people used to say Bill Nye wasn't a scientist and shit, and I'm just like, he really was a scientist when he got enough money from doing his TV show and started doing science experiments. He became a scientist. I don't know what else to tell you. He's just
I mean,
conducted experiments.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, I can think of a comedian that's conducted experiments. I mean, would you
Yeah.
consider him a scientist?
He's a comedian.
But Bill Nye's actually done experiments.
No, I'm
Not just, like,
I'm literally saying
yeah.
that I know a comedian that has well, I don't personally know this comedian, but I know of a comedian that has done actual real science experiments and is probably working right now in the field of botany and development of agriculture.
I mean, he probably views himself as a scientist. Like, if you
I
were
mean,
to ask
I think he would just say that he's a goat herder and a comedian. But
him, or a comedian.
yeah,
No.
but
Nah, because I think those, like, see, because all that shit is science.
well, yeah, I would definitely say that is science. Like, there's a difference between observable reality and science. As you go into like Bill Nye as a scientist, I'm interested in because Bill Nye has taken a lot of stances.
He's actually crazy about, like, mechanisms, man. He's like a mechanic.
Yeah, his background before he did comedy, he did some mechanical engineering for I think American Airlines or somebody like that. He had something to do with like the alien or the airfoils on the wings of jets.
I remember him talking about making some shit, and was like,
Yeah, it creates lift and I mean my aviation knowledge in aerospace isn't what it used to be. You know what I mean? I'm not a kid in the Civil Air Patrol right now, but I mean I could tell you all the stuff that he was able to develop with aircraft. Yeah, that's all good. No, man, fucking like when you come down to it, like he has a lot of stances on things which have been provably false, and a lot of his points regarding weather and climate have been based on falsified models that like it's came out that the actual
true, I like how a lot of people ignore
like the computer model like is based on false data. So like if you plug in false data to a computer, I'm not saying that your computer won't generate the correct answer, but it generates the correct answer with what you have. You know what I'm saying? So
problem.
right. So if you have $5,000 in the bank and you put in there that you have $100,000 in the bank, and it comes out that like okay you can afford a house that costs this much money or whatever, but you don't have that money, so it's not going to happen that way. So when you put the false information in, you're like the world's going to end because all this shit's going to happen with the weather, and it doesn't happen. And they're like, oh well, it's going to happen this time, and you're like, well, you keep plugging in the wrong numbers. If you plug in the numbers that are observable and that you can record, that anybody can record, then you come up with this totally different data set. So like your checksums are wrong. You have to look at like your premises. Like when you come into contradictions can't naturally occur. So whenever you encounter a contradiction, you have to check your premises because some of them are flawed or false.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So, did you know that
Oh, go ahead.
the equator is always the same proportionate distance from true north and true south?
Yeah, it would have to be.
So, true north and true south move. The equator is where atmosphere is lightest. basically. You know,
Right.
there's the least amount of atmospheric pressure.
Right.
And so, that's typically where our space launches are around too, by the way. But if true north and true south move, that means the equator moves, and that means that climate changes. You know what I mean? I just think that they lie about it. It's not like
The Hopi Indians talk about the fucking Earth being
Well, that's
destroyed
pretty
6
interesting.
times already, dude.
Yeah, that's
Global cataclysms.
yeah, global cataclysms.
That's why there's underground cities and like rumors
Well,
of
see,
Agartha.
Was that
Agartha?
Shambhala?
we also like to
Is
ignore
that
world
correct?
history and shit.
Shambhala's like what the capital of Agartha, right?
Like
Underground city in Earth.
recorded history is like only like 8 to 12,000 years old, some shit like that.
Well, yeah, I
Right.
mean, you look back and like who the
Uh,
Mesopotamians were the first to really have written history, and you know, you have the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Somewhere, I don't know exactly.
I think the Epic of
Where?
Gilgamesh is like the first written thing that's like a book or whatever.
But somewhere, and I'm actually trying to remember there's like a little name of this conspiracy about like Homer and shit, because people think that Atlantis is Florida, and then I did the math.
Was the Edgar Casey, right?
Yeah, and I was like, holy fuck,
Everything's cool as fuck.
that's Florida.
Actually, I should have brought some of my
But-
books on Atlantis.
So,
Wow, it's fun.
well, I mean, what I've deducted in my life is that basically, like 30% to like half of our history is just fucking made up.
It's not like Indian history.
So,
No, I just mean like they just
Yeah.
completely fucking make things
well,
up.
well, Arthur Schlesinger in the 1960s, he was a member of the Kennedy administration. He wrote a book called "The Disuniting of America: Reflections on a Multicultural Society," and in it, he
some bad mumbo.
explains how history can be used as a weapon, and how weaponized history can be used to either create a situation where people are indoctrinated to get along or indoctrinated to not get along. And
Yeah,
how
exactly.
academia is actually less about teaching history and more about like using history as a weapon and the weaponization of history.
Yeah.
That's it's not actually the thesis of this book, but this is a prevalent theme throughout, which is something that I always found very interesting. I had to read that when I was working on my undergraduate in political science. But Arthur Schlesinger's Disuniting of American Reflections on a Multicultural Society really does go in depth into how history can be used as a weapon. And when you think about like the first recorded things are from Mesopotamia, you have the Epic of Gilgamesh. I can't really date these, but like, you know, this is thousands of years ago, obviously. And you take that and then you look into like what your next real, you know, historic writings are. You have like Egypt and the Bible, and then you have like, you know, after that you have, you know, the Greeks, and then you have the Romans, and you know what I mean, you can look into different people that had oral histories that don't necessarily date back this far or whatnot. You know, you go from that into Rome. When Rome collapsed, you have a situation where you have a network of merchants that set up the economic system that would develop in Europe. So you have a network of merchants that were not necessarily Roman, that existed in the Roman era, that controlled commerce globally or internationally, and this network would extend into the banking cartels that would finance the actual like royalty and monarchs in the age of absolutism. So when you look into the economic development of medieval Europe, you see like a feudal system, right? But this feudal system isn't necessarily as natural as it might be depicted, because while you have like a king that has all this land, and you have like serfs or whatnot that live on the land, that work the land in exchange for being able to live, that king doesn't necessarily have the means to raise up armies and try to expand his land and serfdom. And this isn't necessarily a natural occurring thing that historically happened before that. This comes from the king having